I will get started by just first of all thanking everybody who's on the call today. It's really exciting. I was just saying earlier, people start these things by saying, I'm really excited about our webinar today, but I'm genuinely really excited. Our panel is amazing and there's such a wealth of experience. And so we've got such a short amount of time. I want to pack in as much as we can by just keeping things flowing. That's my job. And just to orientate people around, where are we? Where do we want to go? And how do we get there? Our overall theme today is customer health and the new way of doing CX. But a brief intro to Journey Mapper, Julian and I. We're a CX innovation consultancy. We're based in Ireland. 20 years experience in SaaS and tech, and we help customer support and CX leaders in EMEA to implement tech like Fin from Intercom, along with other partners that are on the call. But one of the things we did was just ask a bunch of people in our industry a load of questions around customer health, because we saw that was a struggle that they were having in both large and small companies. So we asked them where they're struggling, and we saw some really interesting patterns, and that's really where we ended up today. Just a few really puzzling questions. We saw loads in the survey, but some of the questions we have around silent expansion, like if NRR is critical at the board level, but customer success owns it, why do our best customers often show the least engagement with our customer health or CX programs? Another one that was kind of weird is that if you intervene on customer health, when customer health is predicted for someone to churn, then does that mean the health score was off because you intervened and they didn't churn, or how does it work? There's a whole paradox that we don't understand. Julian and I come from a growth background, and we're looking at post-sale, we're looking at customer support, and this part just doesn't make sense to us. The other part is the see what six fallacy, this idea that if we get more and more tools, more optimization, larger teams, spend more money, get more data, we'll be better at customer success, better at customer support, more inclined to take action. What we actually saw is that there's less action coming from those companies that claim more sophistication in CX and customer support, and more positive outcomes for those smaller, more agile organizations. So today's thing is just really about asking big questions that the guys here are more well placed to answer than I am. For example, according to our research, the more sophisticated your customer health program, the less likely you are to act on it. So let that sink in. We saw loads on our survey. We'll get into that. We'll send it to you after as well. There's no need to worry about that. But those are the things that are going to surprise you and surprised us. And the people that have joined us are eminently more qualified, as I said, to deal with this. We've got Declan from Intercom, Jack from the CX Academy, Sally from Customer Obsessing, and we've got Gabriel from PlanHat, and Barry from Apollo. I'm not going to get into everything everyone does, because we'll be here all day, but huge, deep experience in CX and customer support and customer health in general. And we'll start with Declan, I think, because you guys are doing some big moves when it comes to CSAT, CX scoring. What has prompted this new approach to the whole game of CX and customer health, and what are you looking to accomplish? What does progress look like here?
So interesting. Yeah, you mentioned kind of sophistication and intervention, and they're two of the drivers as to why we've looked differently at CSAT. And we actually call the project Beyond CSAT, and it's really trying to establish a way of objectively measuring every customer experience that we have. So every interaction with a customer, can we actually, objectively come up with a customer experience measure? And that was the big reason why we put together this Beyond CSAT program. And it's really then trying to ensure that we have the best set of information available so that we know when we need to intervene with a customer and actually do something on their behalf, because for whatever reason they're maybe not getting the most value out of our product, or they're having some particular issue that we may not be aware of. So getting that awareness is really key. Having a sophisticated CSAT score, and by sophisticated I really mean being able to infer CSAT for every single interaction that we have. And we actually built this into our product. So we have an AI-powered customer service platform, and we've recently just launched the ability to have what we call an AI-generated CSAT. So for every interaction or customer conversation that you have through our platform, you can generate, as I say, a CSAT score. So you're not relying on the fact that normally people only respond a small amount of time to the CSAT survey. So rather than having to base your kind of strategic decisions on where you intervene and how you kind of engage with your customers on a 15% sample, we can now do that based on 100% sample using kind of AI generated CSAT. And it's only a kind of a start of a building block to what we call customer experience score. So internally, we've built a reasonably sophisticated customer experience score that looks at multi dimensions of the customer experience, and we ascribe a score to that. And that allows us to look at that score at kind of topic level within our product, or it allows us to look at an account level, or even at individual transaction level. And that can then be a trigger for us to intervene with that customer and do something, or a trigger for us to intervene with our product team and say, product team, you need to do something to make the customer experience better. And elements of that internal customer experience score, we're beginning to wrap it into our product. So the first one is the AI generated CSAT. Other elements of that internal score we will expose. So it's really giving us a very good health view of our customer, and actually allowing us to drive the right triggers for intervention. And it's a level of sophistication, but it's not over sophistication to the point you had earlier, Andrew.
Well, just a couple of things that you've spoke about, and we saw this at the Pioneer event very recently. Intercom talks about the fact that less than 15% of CSAT participants, people who deal with their CSAT in general, actually fill out a survey. So less than 15% of your customers are actually involved in CSAT. But also, just by your roadmap alone, by looking at CX scores separately, you're kind of decoupling it, because you're basically saying that one doesn't necessarily link to the other. And that's certainly what we saw, say, with NRR being decoupled from CSAT, that we might know health, but what does health actually mean, and what does it represent for customers when they're looking at progress and working with your company?
Yeah, so it's a good point. Like, CSAT is only one dimension of a customer experience, and very often it's a raw score. And very often the mindset of a customer in a responding survey is they think about the agent or the support rep that they dealt with, and not necessarily with the overall experience. Whereas in building out a customer experience score, we can actually objectively think about the aspects of the interaction with the customer that the customer, in theory, shouldn't really care about, and we care about because we hold ourselves to a certain bar in terms of how we engage with that customer. So you're right, like it is a slight decoupling. CSAT is almost like a point-in-time view of what happened in that interaction, typically with a human. Today could be with an AI bot. But we're trying to layer a whole lot of other kind of dimensions around that to understand the actual customer experience from start to finish when they interact with us from a support perspective.
You had an example of this. You spoke to us before about the difference between account management and customer support and customer success. But you've actually used this CX thing with real customers recently. There were a few customers you've been dealing with.
Absolutely. I gave an example where I was meeting 5 customers for dinner in New York recently, and normally to prepare for that, and I would have to spend hours understanding their interactions with support, what the experience was like. It would be quite a heavy lift. With the new customer experience score and the dashboard we've built around it, I was able literally in 15 minutes to go in and profile the 5 customers, really understand what volume of traffic had they with us, what was their experience, where were the particular pain points for each individual customer. Like, it was kind of slightly mind-blowing for me that I was able to cut down hours of effort into literally 15 minutes, and had a lot more kind of insights than I would have had in the past as well. So that really shows the power of having a kind of what we call an AI insights engine. Again, that's what we're ultimately building as part of our customer service platform. And that's what you would have seen the first components released at our Pioneer event in London last month.
Yeah, I think that's where Julian and I get excited, because that's growth as well. And customer health is something that is it's blowing my mind. So Barry, we'll move on to Barry from Apollo. Apollo, maybe I'll leave it to you to describe what Apollo does, because it's really complicated and wonderful. But just start with what exactly is customer health, because I think we should start with the definition here that you guys have at Apollo.
Well, a definition of customer health, that's a complex one. But ultimately, it's just about trying to understand whether you should sell more to your customer, or if they're at risk of churn. And just trying to identify those 2 things are probably the most important. But I guess if I speaking to your question earlier of where we were, where we are, and where we're going, if I just lead with just telling people a little bit about what we do, I might answer some of that and then get into it. But Apollo is a customer-led growth platform, and our mission really is to try and help people grow their subscriptions. And what we did is build an AI that's trained on a database of 50 to 60 million users and growing, and all of their behaviors. So there's a couple of billion in events every day that we track. So that AI is then able to, we apply that model to your customers' data, and we can create a super accurate kind of health score that can tell you which of your customers are going to churn, who's the best candidate for conversion, that kind of thing. And that really just, allows you to prioritize, action really. So, whether you want to manually reach out to these customers or automate some of the engagement in tools, actually like Intercom or HubSpot or Salesforce. But I suppose it goes back to a business value thing as well, of course. So from a business perspective, what we're trying to do is help customers to automate as much of the engagement as possible to reduce the cost to serve, and also increase the NRR for, say, your lower MRR cohorts, particularly, which have been kind of neglected in the past. And then for your higher touch customers, just tell your CSMs where they need to focus their time, to avoid churn and try and add some value. If we think about the journey of customer health, though, I suppose you were asking about where we were and where we're going. It kind of, in my perspective anyway, it started with SaaS. It was probably around before we were thinking about this, but we've spent 25 years failing to build good customer health scores because humans are bad at that. Human intuition and limited amounts of data generally have provided pretty not great results. If you think about someone saying, if my customers' monthly active users increase 15% in the last 3 weeks, I'm going to add 2 points to their health score, that kind of thing. That's all very finger in the air, intuitive stuff. Humans just aren't very good at it, and that's where AI comes in, and it's the perfect tool for the job. And that's why people are starting to get more confidence, certainly with our health scores, where our customers are starting to be able to trigger and run automated campaigns based on their confidence in our health score, which wouldn't really happen in the past.
So I'm going to be fair to the humans here, right? You've described customer health in
humans.
A low touch environment where there's a huge amount of data going back and forth with whatever product you're selling and the interactions on your customer experience. And with that huge amount of data, we are limited in what we can do. But what you guys are looking at is those multiple dimensions Declan was talking about, and actually being able to do accurate prediction of customer health and next actions and stuff that is only possible with AI, right?
Yeah, because there's actually a lot of, people would often ask me, like, what are the components in an Apollo Health Score? And I can't really tell them because it's different for every, the AI is identifying things that are non-intuitive and weighting them in a way that's based on, analyzing 50 million users. It's just not something humans can do very well. And also, all this data changes on a daily basis. The users change, the economy changes, business changes. And there's no way you can keep track of that and iterate it every day and make sure the health score is operating well. So the AI is, doesn't go to sleep and it monitors everything. So,
and it's not really about the AI, it's about the confidence that you mentioned in the health score that's generated. And I think that's with that low touch environment that you described as well, the volume of data. But then there's the human element, which Gabe, maybe you could speak to at PlanHat. You guys are looking at these more medium touch, high touch environments where you're speaking directly to customers and that gut level check that you're getting on customer health from the human side. Tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
Yeah. No, thank you, Andrew. And exactly that. So maybe I'll start with what actually PlanHat is for the audience. So PlanHat is a customer management platform built for CSMs, account managers, anyone really with a customer-facing role. And it's a tool where you can drive onboarding, satisfaction, adoption, retention, renewal, expansion via this one single space to really manage your customers better, to drive retention and growth. And obviously very similar to Apollo, to Intercom, we're doing a lot of things when it comes to AI, innovation, applying machine learning to health scores and things like this as well. But one thing, maybe my analysis of speaking to a lot of customers and prospects and things like this on the ground is also that health scores can easily become very complex, and it's easy to get paralysis around this, where we want to add every single data point that we know within the business, and then from there, right, it becomes difficult to take action. So when it comes to health scores at PlanHat and how we really think about health, is that we want to design them around intended outcomes so they actually can drive action. Because at the end of the day, how I truly believe how we drive retention and growth is, again, being in front of your customers. Don't forget about business one-to-one. Speak to your customers. Are we achieving their outcomes? Are we delivering value and things like this? And you're going to see a lot of really, really good results.
That's great. And I know that where we are now is at that big question, that decision paralysis around this stuff. And Intercom and yourselves are both making big bets on the human side of things, that there will be humans involved, and then other environments may not. And Apollo might be looking at a different point of view there, but there's room for everyone in this, I think. But in terms of progress and like, where do customers go next? You mentioned action, and I think that's something we saw with our survey, is that there's a disconnect between amount of data that people have now and all the tools they have versus actually doing something. And you talked about the tool of action versus the tool of record. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, and I think this is also an area with Planet, right? Like generative AI. I know on the call today we have loads of note takers, and I think that's a perfect example of that. Incorporating AI to take notes, making it easy for everyone to handle things like tedious tasks, to again, right, take actions, being in front of your customers and things like this as well. So everything from AI agents, writing assistants, you name it, there's so much value within that, right, for anyone who's working with customers.
Great. Well, Sally, look, you have years and years of CS experience at Customer Obsessing and beyond. Tell us, okay, look, I'll throw you in the deep end, Sally, again. If we threw away all the current metrics on customer health tomorrow, what would we miss?
We would miss the direction on where to focus our attention. I mean, where our energy goes, we put all the focus, but if we don't have something guiding that focus, prioritize customers by whatever, we would just like probably be running around headless, which a lot of CSMs still do, which is not ideal. But yeah, probably it would like lack this guidance. We would not be able to forecast. Almost all our customers are right now in budgeting. We would not know what to calculate with next year in the pipeline. So on our North Star, guiding star, what we're missing.
So on that planning, because I know you guys have a happy planning process that you do. So like, tell us a little bit about how you help your clients to deal with these issues around like decision paralysis and reality distorting around them really is what's happening. So how do you help them with these things that are going on?
Yes, I might be the first one in this round to not say AI. So we don't have an AI engine. We are a consultancy, classic, old school. But what we do with our customers is map their journey really thoroughly. You can use all the tools that were mentioned before in order to do that. We partner with some of you all to do exactly that. But what our core focus is to define the customer journey and define what is the happy path that you mentioned that we want our customers to be on. And where the health score comes into play is how do we notice that a customer leaves this path and into what direction do they leave? Do they actually need to be caught by somewhat training so that we can pick them up again? Do they need different pricing? Do they need a different tool? All of this we need to know. So we will help our customers get clarity around these things. Could also involve building a health score. And I'm with you here, Barry, earlier, everybody asked for the health score. Yeah, I also don't have an answer to that. We have to build it every time around to make it fitting.
If someone attended today's call, just with what do I do around customer health? What do I do today? What advice would you give them today to proceed from today's call?
From today, I'd probably keep it simple. I think we heard that earlier. Don't overcomplicate it. Keep it super simple, like the core things that tell you where's my health heading. Weigh them properly. Like, is everything weighted the same or not? And then trial and error. And always look for, is like a red health score actually a sign for churn, or do we have green ones churning? Because then you have to start over again.
Got it. Well, I know that there's lots of ways to look at this, and one of them is training that you mentioned, and the CX Academy, again, one of our partners. Jack, you're from the CX Academy. You are positioned to help a lot of people who might just be on the beginning of this path or in the middle or even at the end to look at all the new aspects of customer health and CX. So tell us a little bit about what you guys do and how you help people with this stuff.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew, and delighted to be here. So a little bit about the CX Academy. So we were founded in 2018. We're now the global leader in CX training. We've trained over 3,500 professionals, and we work with over 1,500 brands. And I suppose the real reason behind us founding of the business was, the cost to acquire customers has never been higher. And what we really want to focus on now is really delighting customers and letting them becoming your new salespeople by, advocacy and trust. So we've been on a mission since 2018 to provide this training for many professionals.
Okay, great. And I know you ran you have some research yourselves, don't you, around CSAT and NPS scores. Tell us a little bit about that and the perfect metric stuff that you were looking at.
Yeah, well, we recently ran a webinar as well too, looking at, what is the perfect metric for an organization? And it's so difficult to understand what it is, right? Is it CSAT? Is it NPS? And to touch on some of the guys' points here as well is, when we're trying to find the underlying data behind that, right? So CSAT and NPS, it's fantastic. It shows you a score at the end of it. But our clients, and we know across the sector, they really struggle to understand the granular data. So what we provide in our training is our CX excellence framework. And we know the customer experience is a very emotionally driven score. And in our framework, we promote this through our courses. And we really focus on the personalization aspect of it, the trust aspect. So when customers are understanding the journey mapping process, we can pinpoint which areas that we're perhaps letting our customer scores down, such as, you know me, you get me. Is this where we're losing trust from onboarding in our clients? And we really provide an easy framework for businesses to be able to provide that training across multiple teams to be able to get a bit more better understanding of what great customer experience is.
Because I know you've evolved some of those trainings for leaders in the space who have a lot of experience and just need that framework to just approach this new CX 2.0 that we're calling it. And that you didn't mention AI, but AI is a component of that there is an evolution of your frameworks to accommodate that.
Yeah, I mean, we really see the power of AI as well too. And I think, one of the things that we're really just trying to stress with clients moving forward is it's not really one or the other. Perhaps we go gung-ho on the AI and we leave the CS or the CSMs behind. But what we really want to promote here is, maintaining human touch in the digital age. And the benefits that this can have is fantastic, right? So when we look at leaving the admin and the process tasks to the AI, and we really focus on excellence for the human. And we can essentially see some benefits from some businesses where we can essentially turn what is perceived generally as a call center, like a customer support center or CSMs, and actually turn them into revenue generating sides for the business through being able to upsell and cross-sell, because that the process and the admin has been taken away from the rep and being given to the AI. And we can really focus on delivering a great customer experience then.
Great, Jack. Thank you. And it's funny because you're making me think of all the people that Julian and I have been speaking to over the last year. We've covered an awful lot on customer health scores today, but what we're saying is that a lot of the support leaders we're speaking to are actually really kind of nervous, a little bit nervous about all the change going on. Like, how do I keep what works when I'm building something new? Where do I even start with AI when my data's all over the place? How do I make sure this all still feels like us to our customers? And so there's lots of ways to approach this, and that's kind of why we started Journey Mapper too. We spent the last year building expertise in exactly these areas, and not just the tech, but like everything it takes to make the transition in real organizations. And I think one thing that with our partners, we've chosen some really important partners to us, like Intercom, Planhat, CX Academy, our sister consultancy, Customer Obsessings, and Apollo, just to kind of make sure that we have the resources and the places to point people we speak to in the right direction, depending where they're at and where they want to get to. So I know that we're offering a limited number of impact assessment calls, and you can contact us through LinkedIn or whatever, get a clear path forward with AI while protecting what works, learn what's working for other customer support teams making the transition, and also just identify your quick wins so you're not putting your current operation at risk. But I know that there's a lot of different ways you can approach this, whether that means working with us, going directly to our partners, or moving forward on your own. I would say just get in touch with anyone here on the call, including ourselves, and just follow up with us directly after the webinar. I'm watching the time, and I think we've actually hit, amazingly, the right time. Like, we've powered through this. So we actually have 5 minutes for questions, and I think it's going to be really interesting to kind of explore some of this, because we've covered literally the whole gamut, and I'm really interested to hear if there are any questions, or if any of you guys have anything further you'd like to discuss.
I'll start with the moderating of the questions, and congratulations on being on time, Andrew. That's a first. Most people are in view only mode, but you can still chat and ask questions. I've had a few come directly through to me, and they actually all focus around the same thing. Where do we start? Like, people are saying that budgets aren't yet finalized for 2025, or we're actually short on resources for technology investments or transformation projects. How do we get going now with thinking about understanding customer health, understanding value for customer, and driving retention? And I know Sally spoke specifically to this, but I might just throw it out there to the floor if anyone else has some where do we start pointers while we have a bit of time.
Sally, go for it.
Catch up all again. No, what we tell our customers always to start with before you go into tooling or into whatever is look at the current cases that you have running. Like, what are the escalation cases on your desk, and what were the signals in those that you could have spotted early on? And those should be like your starting points to assess health and look into the other accounts. Is that true for the others as well? As well, on the positive side, do you have any success stories currently? What made them a success? Can we measure that for the others?
I'll speak to it a little bit as well, Sally, because one of the great expressions I love is that there's simplicity either side of complexity. And so we're right side in the middle of the messy bit where there are too many decisions to be made. And certainly that's what we've gotten back, is that there are so many ways to go with this. But with customer health, I think we've gathered a lot of people on today's call that can take people on a journey. And that's really where it can start, even if it seems risky, that there's probably different ways to take this, whether it's in a tech direction, whether it's in an education direction, whether it's in just a planning and budget allocation direction. And each of us has our own view on that. So I'd love to hear what the tech platforms are thinking. Where's the first place to start? I mean, how do we get started on Intercom or Apollo or PlanHat?
I can try and answer that, Andrew. I mean, I think the key thing is, what problem are you trying to solve? So it's not technology for technology's sake. You really need a very clear problem you're trying to solve and an outcome that you expect. You know, particularly if you're going to deploy technology and change something around how your team works or how your customers interface with you or how you look at your customers, make sure you get buy-in from the stakeholders, particularly your own support team or your own CSMs. Like, you know, make sure that they understand the driver, allow them to influence ultimately the solution you put out there, because it's not just tech, it's everything that goes around it.
Yeah, I'd very much echo that. How often in my number of years of selling either CSPs or Apollo, which is CLG, did I have people coming on looking for tech because they became a CS manager rather than that they actually had a requirement? They were like, oh, well, I need some, I'm now a manager, I need a tool for that, right? They didn't have an issue around churn, or they weren't even aware if there was a problem with churn or if there was an expansion issue, whatever. So yeah, find out what the problem is. And then the next thing, speaking to what Sally said, is make sure your data is, you have the right data. And, you know, either the right tools that are going to integrate with tools like Apollo or PlanHat or some other tool, or you have all your data ready to be passed through via, you know, APIs and things. So those two things would be, yeah, have a problem and have the data ready. And
okay,
then,
so
yeah.
I'll stop you there, Barry, because we're going to make it. We're going to make it to the end of the thing. First of all, I want to thank everyone. Thank you so much for everyone's participation. I think everyone's going to need to unpack this. I will summarize what I think you said. Frame the problem with whoever you can get to help you frame it, including myself and Julian, if you want to get in touch with us, or Sally. But frame the problem, get your data sorted. And we know from Intercom, for example, it doesn't have to be perfect, just needs to be in the right places and have the right data. And also maybe look at the CX Academy for upskilling. Look at getting yourself and your team trained up. And then Gabe, you're the only one. Is there anything else we've missed to help people through this struggle of the decision paralysis they're in?
No, I think everyone is spot on, right? Let's not forget, as I said before, I know I'm repeating myself, but don't forget about the business one-to-one. Try to be in front of your customer as much as possible. Speak to them, understand their objectives, what they want to achieve, and yeah, a lot of really good things will happen.
And just to be specific, and then tie that back to your customer health, right? That's what you want.
You got it. Exactly.
Customer health is personal to each person you're speaking to. Lovely. Thank you. We did it. Can I do one of those thumbs up? Did they happen when I put my thumbs up? Thank you so much, lads. Appreciate it. We'll send on the recording and everything else, including the data and all the discussion. And we will definitely follow up with everyone who's registered and point you in the right direction of our partners as well. So thank you.